The man in the photo isn't your grandfather, my mom said on her deathbed, but he is your father. She'd been drifting in and out for 3 days. Hospice said it could be hours or another week, but her eyes had that faraway look people get when they're already halfway somewhere else. Then she woke at 2 in the morning with sudden clarity, gripped my wrist with more strength than she'd had in months, pointed a shaking finger at the photo on her nightstand. Grandpa Joe from 1985, young and handsome in his army uniform, the picture I'd known my entire life. Need to tell you something before I go. Should have told you years ago. I leaned closer thinking she was confused. Grandpa Joe died when I was 12. Heart attack in his garden. I remembered his funeral, crying so hard I couldn't breathe. My father was a man named David who died before I was born. That was the story I'd always known. I don't understand, I said. Her eyes were wet, her breathing shallow. I'm not your mother. I'm your grandmother. Your mother was my daughter Claire. The room tilted. I'd never heard the name Claire. No photos, no stories, no mention of a daughter before me. I'd always been an only child of an only child. Claire died giving birth to you, she continued, each word costing her energy she didn't have. 32 years ago, Joe was her husband, your father. She told me in fragments resting between sentences. Claire was her only daughter. Met Joe in college, married at 21, pregnant at 22. Complications during delivery. The doctors saved me, but couldn't save her. Joe was 23 years old, holding his wife's hand when she died, hearing his newborn cry in the next room. He tried to hold me once in the hospital, looked at my face and saw Claire's eyes staring back, started screaming that he couldn't breathe. The grief broke something in him that never healed right. Grandmother stepped in without being asked, took me home, set up a nursery, filed paperwork that made me legally hers. She was 51 and had just lost her only child. Raising me was the only way she survived it. Joe disappeared for almost a year, then showed up asking if he could see me. Not as my father, he couldn't be that. The word triggered panic attacks, but maybe as something else, something with more distance. Grandmother suggested grandfather. He'd been my grandfather my entire childhood. The man who taught me to ride a bike and took me fishing and showed up to every school play. Called me sweetheart and my girl, and looked at me sometimes with an expression I could never quite read. I thought it was how grandpas looked at grandkids. Now I understood. It was a father looking at his daughter through the only lens that didn't shatter him. He wanted to tell you, grandmother whispered. Every birthday he'd ask if it was time. I kept saying too young, then too complicated. Then he got sick and I said wait until you're better. He never got better. She was crying now. I made him die without you knowing. I thought I was protecting everyone, but I was just a coward. I thought about Grandpa Joe in his final days. The way he held my hand and said I was the best thing that ever happened to him. The way he looked at me one last time before closing his eyes, like memorizing a face he'd spent 12 years trying to see without breaking. He wasn't saying goodbye to his granddaughter. He was saying goodbye to his daughter, the one he couldn't raise because raising her meant living with Claire's ghost in every smile, every milestone. He chose distance over absence. Grandfather instead of nothing. Grandmother died an hour after she finished telling me. I held her hand and said I understood. She smiled and said my girls before she stopped breathing, both of them in 2 words. I went through old boxes after the funeral, found photos I'd never seen. Claire at 16, at her wedding, pregnant and glowing. I look exactly like her. No wonder he couldn't look at me without falling apart. I found letters too. Dozens written to me over 30 years, never sent. Dear Claire's daughter. They started because he couldn't write my name without crying. He told me about my mother, things he remembered, things he wanted me to know. The last letter was dated a week before he died. I should have been your father. I should have been brave enough to hold you and give you the life Claire wanted. Instead, I was your grandfather, and that was the best I could do. You have your mother's eyes. Every time you looked at me, I saw her. Being your grandfather let me survive it. I'm sorry that wasn't enough. I love you, Dad. I framed that letter, put it next to his photo on my nightstand. My kids ask about the picture sometimes. I tell them it's their great-grandfather. But when they're not listening, I talk to it like I'm talking to my dad. Tell him about my life, the woman I became. Tell him I understand. Tell him the grandfather version of loving me still counted. He heard me call him grandpa for 12 years. I hope wherever he is, he can hear me calling him dad now.